Okay, we are in on Matt Stafford at a massive number, right? And now we're in on Aaron Rodgers. Are we in on all veteran quarterbacks? What are you hearing over there for the Giants looking ahead at the most important position?
It's a week ago where the Matthew Stafford thing felt like it was pretty close to the finish line. Then he ends up going back to the Rams. And at that point, I was told it's a game of musical chairs. Aaron Rodgers has a chair, and there are a bunch of other guys. And then slowly but surely, over the next 48, 72 hours, I kept hearing, you know what, this Aaron Rodgers thing is not going to go away for the Giants. And from my understanding right now, and you guys may know better than me, that they are pretty significantly down a road where they are negotiating to the point where if Aaron Rodgers ends up as a Giant before the start of the league year next year, it would not be a shock to people in this area and at the Meadowlands.
You're saying they're negotiating? Is that what you just said?
Well, from my understanding is that it has to be part of the negotiation, and I don't know how much Aaron can be involved in speaking with Giants brass, Brian Dable, Joe Shane. But as far as Aaron's representatives, once the Jets made it clear, my understanding is that he can have his representatives talk to other teams. Now, I don't know where the numbers are, but you can't get involved with a player of the caliber of Aaron Rodgers and his resume without at least having an understanding as to what ballpark you have to be in and what he is willing to do at age 41 after what he's gone through the last 2 years. So my understanding is, yes, they have talked about what it would take to get Aaron here with the Giants, to not leave New Jersey. And my understanding is that at every turn, the Giants have yet to be scared off by the idea of, Aaron Rodgers coming on some show every Tuesday. Seems like everybody wants that to be the big issue. But yeah, I think from a football fit, this is something that they're seriously considering.
Everybody in your area that has a blog or a journalism degree, for sure. Now, whenever we talk about Aaron Rodgers in the Giants potentially, it sounds like you think that we don't know. Legitimately, we do not know. I have not. He was out of the country, I think, taking his break. This is like normal thing. I would not interrupt that. AJ talked to him briefly. He said he'll be on the show soon. What does soon mean? Who knows what that is? Sounds like from what you're hearing, though, they are at least in conversations. That's further than I thought, or we had heard. Thank you for giving us that information. We'll continue to talk about it in a proper fashion. Is this Shane Dayball understanding we need a guy this year? We need to have a good season this year. We can't just roll the dice on a rookie drafted quarterback, or what do you think the mentality is?
I think they went in saying, look, our quarterback room right now is Tommy DeVito, and technically he's not even officially signed. He's got to sign his exclusive rights free agent deal, which will happen over the weekend. The reality is they need to sign a veteran quarterback, and they need to look in the draft and get their future quarterback. And that's not easy to do. It's been a hell of a year in New York, as you guys know, for the Giants. At every step, every decision they made backfired. And now, I think that they need to find the best football player to play quarterback to start the season, because you cannot wait until the draft. You're not sitting at number one. You'd like to be at number one and say, you know what, maybe things would be different if had they lost to the Colts. They'd be sitting at number one saying, we know for a fact we are going to get a franchise quarterback of our choosing. They can't do that. So I think right now they need to get the best veteran in here as quickly as possible. And I think Aaron Rodgers right now represents that.
Last question for me before the boys have some. And Art, we can't thank you enough for taking the time here. How would Giants fans feel if this was reality right here? Boom!
Wow!
Boom! Wow. How would that feel? How would Giants fans feel about that, you think? Because I've obviously read the internet, and we're associated with Aaron. Lucky to be, thankful to be, but we are associated with Aaron. So anything that gets brought up, obviously, my mentions get filled up as well. Some places seemingly okay without Aaron. How would Giants fans, you think, feel if he was their quarterback next year and next season in a seemingly must-win season for the Giants?
I think it'll be mixed, Pat. And, the reality is that, my Tuesdays would be shot. I'd have to listen to you guys, which, I'd enjoy anyway.
Yeah,
but
of course, Art, of course. Yeah.
People keep talking about, this circus that Aaron Rodgers brings, that idea. I've covered the Giants for too long at this point to think that, dipping your toe in the water at this point and being afraid of the controlled chaos that maybe a player might bring, it's gotten them nowhere. It really has gotten them nowhere. Like, to me, yes, they need to win. They need to be competitive this year. I don't think anyone's picking them to all of a sudden beat the Eagles in not only the NFC, but in the division. But I do think that if you look at the football and say Aaron will be 2 years removed from the Achilles and what he did, guys, 3,800 yards passing for the Jets. The last time the Giants had a quarterback that threw for at least 3,800 yards? 2015.
He did that in like 4 games.
Yeah. I mean, he threw 28 touchdowns. The last time they did that was 2018, and that was both Eli Manning and, he's off making shows and, a colleague of yours at ESPN. So the reality is that if it's from a football perspective, you deal with anything else that you think is coming with Aaron, because if he can play, I think the match between Aaron Rodgers and Brian Dable, yes, it could be combustible, but I think it would be pretty interesting for 1 year to see them try to get the most out of this season.
And maybe they have a young guy behind them that they don't want necessarily to be a franchise immediately. Connor has a question for you.
Yeah, how about the third pick, Art? It feels like even if they do get that vet, and you mentioned 1 year right there, that there's still a chance they might take a quarterback. Or is there any reports about who they might be kind of in love with in this upcoming draft class? And do you think that quarterback at 3 is very possible, or will they take, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, one of the best available guys?
I've heard all 3 quarterbacks that were presumably at the top of the draft, or at least in that first round discussion: Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and Jackson Dart from Ole Miss. Not in that spot necessarily. I think if they can pull off a deal with Tennessee to get to number 1, I think they'll take Cam Ward. I think they like his upside. I think they've liked meeting with him. They want to meet with him more over the next month or so and see where there's at. They've had a lot of interaction with Shedeur Sanders, which we've seen on the internet. Everybody has caught his exchanges with Dable and Malik Neighbors going all the way back in Times Square on Heisman weekend and all that stuff. Is Shedeur a possibility? I know there are fans of his in the building. But the other guy would be Jackson Dart. So if the Giants don't move up to 1, I think they sit at 3. If a quarterback is there that they want, they'll take him. If not, they'll take the best player. Could be Carter, could be Travis Hunter. And then maybe they trade back at the end of the first round if a guy is still there, like a Jackson Dart, maybe a Jalen Milroe. And then if you believe the mock drafters, maybe even a Shedeur Sanders will be sliding there late teens, early 20s. Maybe the Giants will say, you know what, we didn't use the picks that we could have gone up for 1. Maybe we'll move back into the first from 34 and try to get that other quarterback to learn behind Aaron Rodgers.
All the mock drafters are interesting with where they're placing everybody. Yeah. Charles Davis just came out and said Shedeur's going number 1. Then some people have him going 6th to the Raiders. Then they have people who have him in teens. There's some people that have him in
30th,
late first round. It is very fascinating. I don't know if anybody knows shit at this point. Dabo, Jalen Milroe would be an interesting dynamic coming back together in it all. And all eyes are on those top couple picks. It is a fascinating year for the draft. Can't wait to cover it with the Draft Spectacular live here at the Thunderdome. AJ has the last question for you here, Art Stapleton.
Art, other than the quarterback position, what are the most areas of glaring weakness you think that the Giants will have to address in the draft? And also, is there any chance that they're going to go after Davante Adams possibly to bring him in as receiver?
Is that from you, AJ, or is that from a possible quarterback at some point that you made?
That's from me. Strictly me. You were showing the highlights, and he was completing so many nice balls to Davante.
Davante was flying all over.
How good would Davante Adams look as a pair with Malik Neighbors, with Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball? I think it's something that they would consider. I think their offensive line might be better this year than people thought. They had a lot of injuries last year. I think they'll be in play for a number 1 corner, potentially in free agency. Maybe a guy like DJ Reed, who played with Aaron with the Jets. So maybe it's collect your old Jets season for the Giants. And I think on offensive line, I think they're looking for a starter at right guard. That'll bring back their full complement plus a right guard. And I think they may look for up front. Who wouldn't want to put one of these great young defensive tackles against Dexter Lawrence? Then you have Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, the young guy, Kayvon Thibodeau back. We'll see what they can do up front.
What was the record in one-score games last year? 2-9 or something like that in one-score games? Is that what it was last year?
I think they had a bunch of one-score games. And Dable's first year, they flipped that. And then you look what happened. They ended up winning 9 games, a 10th in the playoffs. So, look, the league is built on one-score games. And, if there's a quarterback that you want to have a veteran leading a team that you think could kind of swing the pendulum from the worst in the league to maybe somebody who can compete for the playoffs, it goes back to Aaron. So if they can work something out, I think it gives them their best chance as a football team to be competitive. And those guys need that this year. This entire franchise needs that.
Well, tell them, AJ, you don't have to move. Matthew Stafford just took a big discount not to move and to stay with the Los Angeles Rams. Moving sucks, okay? Moving absolutely sucks. Everybody feels the exact same way about it.